3 years after we first tested the Chevrolet Corvette C8 Z51, does the 2025 version still hold up as one of the world's great sports cars? We're going to find out on track. All right, well, join me behind the wheel of the 2025 Z51 Chevrolet C8 Corvette. This is one of our favorite cars for obvious reasons. It's a Corvette. There is not many cars on the face of the earth that can do what this thing does for the same money, and it makes some great noises. Now, the one thing we've noticed in our day of testing here at the firm is this thing is very front tire limited. It's got a 305 millimeter wide tire in the back, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, but only a 245 millimeter tire in the front. You can see, especially on that corner that falls away from you a little bit, very understeery, very pushy. So you have to really do a lot of trail braking with this car. Now, the brakes are great. The brakes have great feel, and you can actually adjust the brake feel a little bit and get them to work exactly as quickly as you want. But you really need that because you've got to do, especially in a corner like that, gosh, it's a lot of trail braking to get that front end to grab, and then even through the middle of the corner, you can really feel that front end doing a lot of work and really too much work for those tires. But when you're hitting the brakes here from over 120 miles an hour, it is just a delight. Now, this is a car right out off the showroom floor, so it doesn't even have the performance alignment like you would do if you were going to actually take this thing to the track, and that really could help a lot with that understeer. But right now, as it sits, you are just waiting for that front end to grab all the time. So let's talk about this thing in general behind the wheel, and I haven't driven a C8 for a while. Now, Chevy really says they haven't done much to this car since it came out a few years ago, but honestly, with the competition seats, this is the best fitting Corvette I have driven in a long, long time. The actual wheel pedal seat relationship is, I dare say, as good as any Corvette has ever been. It's got great sight lines, especially out the front. You can really get a nice view over that low hood. You can see all the way down to an apex and really do a lot of great carving with this car just because it's so easy to live in, it's so comfortable, and it's so easy to see out of, a rarity in some modern high-end sports cars. Now, one other complaint I have about this car, and it's a minor one, it's overcomable, is the throttle curve. It seems to have a lot of the throttle actuation biased towards the back half of the motion. It's a very long throw on the throttle. So if you're trying to progressively throttle out of a corner, it can be a little awkward until you get used to how long the throw is on that throttle. And just sort of get accustomed to the fact that you're going to turn a lot of power on in the last part of that throttle actuation. Now, it makes throttle actuation very nice in the slower parts of the corner because you do have a lot of throttle to play with, but I'd like it to be a little more linear. Now, as far as overall track capability on this car, I mean, it's just astounding. The brakes have not given us a single whisper of fade yet today. Oil temperature, I mean, we're on about 5 or 6. Have been pretty hard, 219 degrees. So the Z51 package with some of the track accessories really does a great job with that extra cooling at being an extremely track capable car. This thing will take a track day as long as your energy and your fuel will last. It used to be that everybody would mention Corvettes in terms of, well, Corvette's a great car for an American car. Oh, you know, Corvette's a great car for, you know, a budget supercar. Corvettes are just great cars with world-class performance. And I think you can see that by the fact that there are so many populating the top ranks of our leaderboard for all of the testing that we do at the Florida International Rally and Motorsport Park, which is our official test course. So what's different about the 2025 C8 Z51 than the 2022 version we tested a few years ago? The answer is really very little. There's some new color options, there's some new trim options. Performance-wise, it's still basically the same car. You get a 495 horsepower V8 behind the driver. That's up 5 horsepower over the base model Corvette due to some exhaust and tuning tweaks. You get all of that great Z51 package stuff, which includes like extra cooling, a lot of really track-focused accessories, and our test car also had the brake upgrade package as well, which makes for a fantastic track companion. The C8 is still motivated by an 8-speed dual clutch transmission, and look, I'm sure however you feel about dual clutch transmissions, you're going to post down in the comments, but it works great with this engine. It's a little more of a sort of high revving, peaky V8 than we might be used to in Corvettes. So having those extra gears, kind of a nice thing. Shifting is quick, it is responsive to both paddles, both up and down. There's no timing lag in between the time you actuate that paddle and the time that gear shifts. So for going fast on track, it is a perfectly acceptable, even welcome companion. Now, you may be one of those people who says, well, a purely manual stick and clutch manual transmission is a better option. You do you. I completely agree with that sentiment in certain cases. For getting around a racetrack fast, this is a really, really nice, very drivable solution. As far as brakes go, 13.6 inches in the front rotor diameter, 13.8 inches in the rear, owing to that rearward weight bias of a mid-engine car. And they work great. I was doing both right foot and left foot braking on track. They work great under any circumstance. They are very responsive. They give you a lot of feel. The release is good if you're somebody who likes doing a lot of trail braking, which in a front light mid-engine car, I really recommend. It really helps this car get turned into that corner. In fact, the biggest struggle that we had on track was getting that front end pointed properly into and through and exiting the corner. It just really wants to understeer everywhere, and being able to control the mass and control the weight transfer up onto that nose and get it turned in and then get that weight off as you're turning in. Big help. Good brakes really help with all of that operation, and this C8 Z51 really has the brakes to perform the way it should in a trail braking situation. All right, so we are going to check out some of the V-Box data that we got from our track test of the C8 Z51 Corvette. But before we do that, let me talk to you a little bit about the folks at V-Box, because did you know that every single car we test on track, we test with V-Box equipment? For our workflow, look, we're a small company. It's literally just like me and Chris right now in my garage shooting a video. When we go to the track, it's not much of a bigger crew than that. It's usually just me and the camera guy. Maybe there's somebody else doing photography. Maybe it's just me. And for our workflow, we need a data solution that matches that stripped down, efficient workflow. V-Box works fantastic for us. Their Circuit Tools software works great on PC or Mac. All of the equipment is basically plug and play, and they have solutions for the consumer club racing hobbyist all the way to the professional race teams that want broadcast quality video and multi-channel data. It's great stuff. We love it. We use it. And if you want to check out some of the products that they make, whether you're a club racer, a pro racer, or anything in between, check them out at the link in the description. And now let's look at our own V-Box data from this C8 Z51 Chevrolet Corvette. The biggest difference we noticed, well, first off, we tested these cars over 3 years apart. We tested the 2022 back in January of 22. We tested the 25 in April of 25. So a lot of things can change in that time, although we saw a lot of similarities in the car. They were clearly the same car, but we saw some big similarities in track performance. For example, somebody just the week prior to when we did our Corvette test had dumped a bunch of oil in turn 8. We'll actually see that show up on the data. Looking at this data chart, we're going to look at the speed chart first. Always look at just a plain speed graph first. Let's expand this a little bit. The first thing I look for is I look for a lot of nice sharp peaks at the end of the acceleration zones going into the braking zones, and that is definitely what I'm seeing at all of these spots right here. This is near race car levels of sharpness for that car, coming to an end of the acceleration zone, immediately transitioning to braking and getting slowed down. Now, you don't always see that in a mid-engine car, and this car actually didn't feel as good as these braking traces looked, which was kind of interesting. In fact, it felt a little bit like I had to initiate braking with a little bit less aggression because it was waiting for load on those front tires to get their maximum traction because all the weight was behind you. Now, these braking traces don't really look like that. They fall off very consistently. This one maybe has a little bit of a bulge. Initially, there's maybe a little bit of ABS intervention right there with that blip. But overall, these look better than they felt, which I think tells us that the overall capabilities of the car are very, very high, and it's working at a very high level, even though it's communicating that maybe it's got a little bit more left in the tank to give me. I think with a set of sticky tires and a proper alignment, the thing's going to be an absolute monster. And folks in SCCA time trials and SCCA autocross and NASA time trials have shown us that already, that with just a better, more performance-focused alignment, some good 200 treadwear tires, these things are absolute rocket ships on track. So overall, this is a great looking chart. This is a very race car-like chart. We see good climbs out of the acceleration zones. We see, again, these nice sharp peaks, and we see our minimum speeds don't really last all that long. They're maybe not perfect because we are doing a little bit of adjusting mid-corner, especially in a couple of the corners that were maybe not optimal on this track on this day. But overall, that is a great looking chart. So let's now compare it to the 2022 version. And I'll cut to the chase here. We were faster in the 2022 version than we were in the 2025 version. Although sometimes those lap times can be a little bit deceiving. When you look at all of our sessions from our test day with the 2025, our best lap from multiple sessions was only 30 thousandths of a second off from each other. We ran a best time of 117.5 seconds in our best lap in our best session. Our second best lap was a 117.53 in a different session. Our third best lap was a 117.53 in a third session. So what we see from this 2025 car is we're getting out of it pretty much everything it had to give. So we were sort of up against the limits of the car and the limits of the track. Now, we were over a second faster in the 2022 version, but let's look at the comparison data and we'll see where that speed differential was occurring. So here's the comparison. Blue is the 2022 car, red is the 2025 car. And we can see that most of this lap looks kind of like a carbon copy, but let's focus on the places where it's different. So for example, this area, this is turn 8 right here. This is the acceleration down out of turn 8. Now these two curves are both fairly identical. They're just in different spots. So what's going on there? Well, we see our entry speed into turn 8 here was about the same for both cars. Then we start to pick up the area where all that oil had been laid on the track a week earlier, and we see the 2025 car start to vary its speed quite a bit, especially here towards the end. Now, both cars slow down towards the end. The nature of that corner is it opens up and then it closes back down, so you do tend to have this sort of telltale W shape through that corner. But we see a lot more indecision here in the latter part of the corner, especially here at the exit, which is where most of that debris and oil was laid down. So it's very difficult to get a proper exit. And we see how that improper exit followed us all the way down to the next corner. Braking performance, pretty much identical in both cars. We see another cornering discrepancy here where we just couldn't get through turn 4 quite as fast with the 2025 car. And big bobble there, that's going to be turn 3, where we really just couldn't get that front end to stick with the 25 car the way we could with the 2022 car. Now, both these cars had exactly the same tires on them. We assume they're going to have the same basic alignment, but track conditions, weather, there's a million different variables. The amount of dust on the track, the last time it rained, that can sort of affect those things and change things up a little bit. So what I'm willing to say from this is the 2025 car performs every bit as well as the 2022 car, because essentially it's the same car. But we definitely had some discrepancies based on the day of testing and based on those track conditions. So where does this 2025 version of the Chevrolet Corvette C8 Z51 stack up on our big leaderboard? Well, we said it was a little bit slower than the 2022 version, but it still is up right in the top echelon of cars here. I'm even going to put a little oil asterisk on the tag here, and we're going to slot that right into the number 6 spot, just above the Fields Cardinal, a little bit slower than the BMW M2, still up in this section of world-class cars. And I think this also shows you that now might be a great time to go out and buy a used 2022 C8 Z51, because you're going to get the exact same performance as you are from the brand new version. Chevy did a fantastic job with these cars as soon as they unwrapped them and unleashed them on the public. That performance is holding up very, very well, has not fallen off one bit, but has also not really improved one bit either. So any C8 Z51 you go out and buy right now is going to be an absolute world beater. And you know what? If you are enjoying any of the other stuff we are doing here at Grassroots Motorsports, I invite you to do a few things before you sign off with us. Go right down below this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to get first crack at anything we are doing here on YouTube, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the Chevrolet Corvette C8 Z51, or if you've got a good source for some denim shorts that I can wear in the next video, drop that in there as well. You can also check us out on the web at grassrootsmotorsports.com. You can see all of the content from the print magazine, our online exclusives, our YouTube content, and you can connect with enthusiasts just like yourself on our message board. Folks, we appreciate you stopping by. Cannot wait to see you and your Corvette next time at the track.
Want to see more content like this? Make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. And for more information, visit us online at grassrootsmotorsports.com.